All right, my beautiful people, welcome to the Jefferson-Rogers podcast. Time that drink perfectly. Episode number 5. God, I need to write that down. Okay, episode number 5. I'm here with a special guest, Mr. Jeff Fieldstad, and I'm excited about today because this guy has got a special story, and I'm going to let him tell it, but we've known each other for a long time, since I think I was 14, he was 13. We started out as kind of enemies within this group of kids at middle school that were fighting over girlfriends and things like that you do in middle school. And we were both intimidating guys, but the one thing about this guy is that he is absolutely fearless when it comes to pretty much anything in life. Yeah. And I wasn't much of a fighter anyways, but this was one guy that I did not want to mess with when I was 14 years old.
So funny. The past, man, the past.
But that's one of the things that I remember. And since then, you've made something of your life that's very impressive, and you always spoke about it when we were coming up, and I didn't know what to think of it because we were just punk-ass kids, and I didn't have anybody in my life that taught me the value of having vision and having goals and something to go after.
Yeah.
And so you were an inspiration to me very early in my life of being maybe that first impression of that.
Wow. Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
And since you've you've accomplished most of all those little things that you used to talk about when we were kids.
Yeah. You know, it's amazing. It's amazing to think about all those things you talk about, and then they come to reality when you go to work for them, right?
Yep, absolutely.
That's cool, man.
So why don't we start off by just giving a quick background on your upbringing and kind of what brought you to this point in your life now.
Okay, cool. Yes, I was raised born and raised until I was about 11 or 12 in West Valley, which is like Salt Lake City, Utah area, and was raised by a single mom. And my mom had a long-term boyfriend that they were always off and on, who I've always called my stepdad, you know. But I have 5 siblings, and we just lived in a bad area. Nobody made any money, and then my mom wanted to get us out of that area, so it was a lot of violence and gangs and all that kind of stuff. So we moved to southern Utah in St. George, and there's no gangs or violence and all that kind of stuff. But then you just start getting in trouble because there's nothing to do. Mm-hmm. And but I always wanted to be successful, man. When I first moved to southern Utah, we lived in a trailer, and I hated it so bad. And I think at that point in my life, I started realizing the impact that money has on your life. I think everybody at some age in their life, they start realizing, like, oh, dang, my parents are rich or my parents are poor. I always knew we were poor, but I really realized that you could have a great life once we moved to southern Utah because there's a lot of wealthy people here. And so I wanted to be successful, man. I just wanted to be wealthy. So then what happened was I got out of school, didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was this ornery kid, pissed off at the world, and boxing was my sport of choice. It was a good way to get aggression out, not get in trouble.
When did you start boxing?
I started boxing in 6th grade, so I was 12 years old. Wow. So I don't know what year that was. I'm 35.
Were you fighting before that, though? Had you gotten in fights?
Oh, yeah, I got a million street fights before I started boxing. In fact, I started boxing because we were in like storage units, and there was these when you're kids, I was 12 years old, and they were talking crap, we were talking crap, we were getting ready to street fight, and this guy walks out and had a gym and invited us in so we didn't get in trouble. Yeah. And said, hey, if you guys want to come
in here and work it out.
Yeah, so we did, and he said, hey, if you guys want to come back tomorrow, I'll train you for free. And I kept going back for 7 more years. Wow. Every day. Good man, he changed my life.
That was one of the things that I think made you so intimidating, was just how confident you were. Yeah. Because I think you'd been doing it for so long, and you knew. I watched you fight this one guy that it was planned. I think you guys had even boxing gloves on. It was in a backyard at a party. Uh-huh. And this dude, we were just kids. Yeah. I mean, you were probably 14 or 15. I was 16, and this guy was 3 years older than me. Yeah. And I think you're a year younger than me.
Yeah.
And it seemed like he was a foot taller than you.
Yeah.
Remember that fight?
Yeah, I do. I remember. Yeah.
And
crazy.
I mean, you took it to that guy.
Yeah. Well, I think that when you do something, I mean, it's any skill in life, right? You start getting comfortable because you get confident, but then you learn, right? So with any sport, people make it look so easy after they've done it for so long. They put in so much effort into making something look easy. So, yeah, I think at some point, I still love the sport. To me, it's, one of the greatest sports ever. But, yeah, I loved it. I got upset. It helped me a lot. It helped me a lot with confidence. It helped me a lot getting my aggression out in the right areas.
Absolutely.
It also gave me a different perspective where I never forget, my trainer used to always say, if you're going to get in a street fight, you got to be willing to die because you never know if the guy has a gun or a knife or something like that. And so I think he really helped me a lot. It was like I could go get my aggression out but not feel like I needed to go be tough in the world. So I didn't have anything to prove to anybody, which I think probably still has helped me today because I've never felt like I had anything to prove to anybody else. I just to myself,
Yep.
So, yeah. But anyway, so I was, boxing. I loved it. Wanted to be a professional fighter. I saw that as my way to make a lot of money. And then I started getting into a group of people who had been very successful in the boxing world and started realizing that wasn't the life I wanted. And I didn't want to trade. I wouldn't have traded them lives. They were great people. I loved being around them, learned a lot from them, but wouldn't want to trade their lives necessarily. Definitely wouldn't want to bring, today is my wife, but at the time was my girlfriend. I didn't want to bring her to the gym, let alone into a life in there, So I started thinking about, dang, do I really want to have a family in this lifestyle?
So you were still boxing when you and Kelsey first met?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So we met. Yeah, I was still boxing. Had a couple of fights, actually, afterwards, sanctioned boxing matches. Yeah. And then, so I got out of high school, didn't know what I was going to do with my life. Hated, I'm unemployable, right? So after high school, I got a job working at a call center, right? One of my buddies said, hey, I'm making $10,000 a month taking incoming calls. I'm an introvert, so I never, at that time in my life, I'd never make an outgoing call to somebody, but I can answer the phone. Yeah. At lunchtime, at about 10 a.m., I had to take a pee, so I decided to get up and go to the bathroom, and then I came back, the manager yelled at me, I didn't ask for permission. So I'm like, I'm never going to do this. I left at lunch and never went back. I'm like, no way, I'm a grown man. I'm never asking someone else when I can go to the restroom. I never went back. I never went to go get a check, nothing. I was there for 4 hours. So then I left there. I went to my girlfriend, who today is my wife. I went to her house, and I was sitting on her couch, and I said, I'd rather be a bum on the beach in the Bahamas than ever work for some dude who's going to tell me when I can use the restroom. And her mom, she knew we had talked about getting married. We were just young at this time. I was 19 years old, and Kelsey was 17. And so, you can imagine this mom of her daughter and her boyfriend is talking about he never wants to get a job. And she goes, well, I'll give you a job. She owned this advertising company. And I remember telling her, like, no, I don't want a job. Didn't you hear what I just said? I don't want to work for somebody else. And she said, why not? And I said, well, I don't want someone tell me what to do, when I can show up, when to leave, all that kind of stuff. And she goes, well, I'll tell you what, I'll put you on commission. If you make a sale, you make some money. And if not, you don't. It's up to you. I go, done. Right? So I started doing advertising. And my first month I was pumped. It was in 2004, I believe. 2004, 2005.
Wow.
I made $7,400 my first month. Here I was like 19 years old, man. Made $7,000. I was like pumped,
That's huge.
Yeah, especially legally, right? I was like,
you'd made some money in some other ways.
Yeah, I didn't have to do anything wrong. Made $7,000, and I got it up to where I was making about $12,000 a month, and I was doing good, and I was loving life. Here I was 19, 20 years old, making $12,000 a month. I thought I had the world by the tail. And then one day I opened up my check and it was short. And when you're on commission, you know what your check is going to be.
Exactly how
right?
much.
I knew that day when I opened my check and I opened it up and it was $5,000 short. And I worked for my mother-in-law. She had 3 business partners. A couple of them were her brothers and then another guy named Kurt. And so I called my mother-in-law and said, hey, you owe me some money. She goes, well, didn't you read the letter in your check? So I read the letter. It basically said, hey, we're paying you too much money. We can't afford to keep you at paying you this much money, so we have to cut your commission. So I called her back and said, that's fine, but you owe me money from the past. We had an agreement, so pay me money from the past and give me that money and I'll be fine. And if you need to pay me less in the future, I understand. I don't want the company to go out of business because we made an agreement, but you need to fulfill.
That would be the right way to do it.
Exactly, right? Yeah, we had an agreement. So fulfill your agreement, and they didn't do it. So I was pissed. Like at this point, I went from being like 80% of their sales at the company. I had slowly worked my way up to become, a huge portion of the company. And so at this point, it was almost like, I don't even know if I want to do that. I was depressed for the first time in my life. I've never been like this depressed guy, right? Like, I've just never been that guy. But I was depressed. Like, shoot, I thought I was going to do this forever. And then all of a sudden, I start making a lot of money, and they cut my pay. Well, in the meantime, there was this guy who had been following up with me, trying to recruit me in the financial services business. And I always just imagine like a bunch of old white dudes in an office wearing suits, boring and stale. Like, it's just
traditional financial services.
Yeah, it's not me. It's not the environment I wanted to be in. I just never, it just seems so stuffed, right? I just never want to do something like that. So I just really wouldn't listen to him. And then one night, dude, he called me at like 7 o'clock, and I heard music in the background, like good music. I'm like, what the heck is this guy doing? You know? And I just like, it intrigued me to think that he would make a call, like a recruiting call, and with that music in the background. And it intrigued me. And so I went down to his office to meet him. And when I met him, I knew he was successful. And so at that point, I didn't think I could do what he was doing. My wife, on the other hand, totally believed that I could do it, right? Because I'm an introvert, so I just thought, like, there's no way I could do sales and recruiting and all this kind of stuff they were doing. They're making big money. There's no way. I'm an introvert. I mean, I talked to like 4 people my whole life. You know, I didn't want to talk to anybody else. I was just ornery, you know?
Wow.
And so I just never saw myself as being successful at something where I was dealing with people. I always loved people. I just didn't have anything to say, right? And nor did I have empathy either. You know, at that point in my life, it was like I just thought everybody struggled. So it was like, suck it up, you know, everybody.
Yep.
Not realizing like everybody has a different story.
It is crazy how scary it is. Yeah. Just one decision to the next, like not taking that phone call.
Yep.
And where you could be right now.
Crazy, huh?
If that phone, I mean, I'm sure you would still be at some level of success, but like moment to moment in your life, if you're not ready to take a risk and just go out and just go meet this guy.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and I think a lot of times, and that's why I try to tell people, people that aren't successful think that everything is going to line up perfectly. Like, once I get this done, then I can go. Successful people never want to work with people like that, because when you're chasing success, nothing's perfect. So if you think everything has to be lined up and the runway has to be cleared off for you to be able to take off to success, you're never going to have an opportunity, because by the time the runway is clear, the successful person got in, made millions, got out, and has moved on to something else before you're even ready to get started. Yeah, so I think that's a big thing, which I didn't know at the time. It was just pure luck, honestly. It was just pure drive. Like, I wanted to be successful. I wanted to meet this dude. He said he was rich. Let's go meet him, you know? So went down there, met him. My wife said, you need to do this, basically. She was only 17, so she couldn't do it. You had to get a license, right, in the financial services business. I was 19. No, I was 20. And she was 17. She was just turning 18. We were just kids, you know. I just graduated high school. She had just graduated high school. And so I got started, got licensed. And then for 9 months, I was part-time, you know, just doing it in addition to my job. And then my 9th month, I quit my job. And then 3 months later, we moved to Boise, Idaho. Didn't know a single person. Scared to death. Didn't have any money saved. But we were going to open up our own business up there and start our own office. I'll never forget, dude, we had $3,000 to our name. We literally went into our closets, put our clothes in trash bags, put our trash bags in the back of our cars. She had a white Mazda 6, and I had a silver Nissan Altima. And we filled our, back seats with our clothes in trash bags. And we drove 9 hours away, never been there, didn't know anybody from there. I had a location for an office. I didn't have a place to live yet. So I showed up that day. I put first and last months down on our office. It was like $2,400. I had $600 left to find a place to live. And we ended up finding a place. Some lady rented us a room, and it's just crazy, dude.
Time to get to work.
Yeah, and that year, that was in 2007, we made $115,000 that first year, which seemed like it's crazy, because at the beginning of the year, we were making like nothing, like $3-4 grand a month. By the end of the year, we were making $20,000 a month plus, right? So it was cool. Then the next year, in 2008, the world started crashing. But, I just told everybody, turn off the televisions, don't watch the news. The world's going to tell you the world's falling apart. It's not true. It's all perspective. It's all mindset, all this kind of stuff. And so talk to all my guys. Literally, I would tell them, throw your televisions in the trash, go pawn them, do whatever you got to do, but do not stay connected to the outside world, because it will crush your life. And that year we made $220,000. I was 22, I think, so it made $220,000. And that was in '08. And then in '09, the world got really bad. In '09, it was like the world was ending. People were mailing their keys back to the banks. We're in the financial services business, know? And
when you got started, mortgages were a big deal.
Oh, they were huge. When I got started, mortgages were like, everybody and their mama was making so much money in mortgages, right? It was the financial services industry. You were doing no-doc loans. If you could fog a mirror, they'd give you a loan. Like, how could you not make money,
Wow.
So got started and then, made 465 in 2009. And that changed my life, because here I was 24 years old. I was really 23 at the beginning of the year, right? So I was 23, 24 years old, making $40,000 a month. And then in 2010, our company went public and got a bunch of stock, and we were set, dude. So I saved my first $1 million, saved not net worth, but $1 million that I had cash invested by the time I was 25. And then, we had a business that was worth far more than that.
Wow.
But so we got free. We've been free ever since then, which was 2011, so we've been free. And that was, a decade ago. So it's been cool. And then, we just kept working. It was, what I love to do, my passion, developing leaders, seeing people achieve their dreams and, meeting somebody who was making $30,000 a year. And then, a couple of years later, they're making $30,000 a month. It's so cool to be able to see people do that in your organization.
So I'm curious, what was the transition for you? Because, when I knew you, we were friends and we talked and we'd bullshit, but, I was kind of the same way in the beginning.
Yeah.
Where I remember one time we were at Frosttop, it was me and you and Greco.
Yeah.
And we were stoned as all get out.
Yeah.
And some girls came up to us.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even talk. I was so stoned and so awkward. I didn't hardly talk to anybody. For years and years and years. And then I just kept doing that. And I had careers where I didn't have to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
I'd build houses and I'd stay stoned all day.
Yeah.
Didn't have to talk to anybody. And then I went into being a mechanic and I didn't have to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
So that was a hard transition for me when I first got started in my window business.
Yeah.
Was getting out of my comfort zone and starting to have some conversations and keep eye contact.
Yeah.
So how was that? What was it like for you? And how did that transition happen?
I think the best way to describe it is fear, right? Fear, all of us live with fear. All of us, okay? Jimmy Iovine, who is, the guy who founded Interscope Records, right? He said something powerful one time. I'm paraphrasing. I know this isn't perfect, but he said something to the effect of, fear is a powerful thing. Fear, if you allow fear to stop you, it will do just that. But if you learn to put fear behind you and push you, you can almost become unstoppable. And so, I realized that, I was scared, but I had a choice, right? What was I more scared of? Was I more scared of being broke and average and ordinary like everybody else? Or was I more scared? Which fear was bigger? And my fear was bigger of being average and ordinary and broke and struggling financially for the rest of my life than it was going out talking to someone, making a call, getting rejection. Like, so what, And at some point, I guess I just realized that I'm not gonna let negative fears control my life. I'm gonna change the narrative in my mind of what I'm really afraid of, which is being broke, which is struggling and living in an average neighborhood and having my kids look up to, who knows who my children are going to look up to because they're successful and the world tells them they're everything, versus me being that person because I earned the right. Like a lot of parents want to be their children's heroes without earning the right, right? You better listen. I brought you into this world. I can take bull crap. Like, I don't have to respect you. Like, why would I respect someone who doesn't treat me well or earn respect, right? But I would respect anybody who's
and haven't accomplished anything, because kids aren't stupid.
No, they're not. And I used to tell a lot of my guys, don't let your kids, as they're growing up, you sit in there. You need to tell your kids what you're going to do. You need to tell it to the world, but you better deliver. Otherwise, they're going to find out you're a fraud.
Absolutely.
And not just your kids, your wife, your family, everybody around you.
You got to deliver.
Yeah.
And if you're the right kind of person, you have a high level of integrity.
Yeah.
You're going to speak things into existence. You're only going to say stuff that you're going to go out and deliver on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's almost like when you become obsessed about something, it's like you're talking about it, you don't even realize it anyway. It's like you're telling the whole world what you're going to do. And later on, they say, oh, you said you were going to do that. You don't remember saying you were going to do that. You just said you were going to do it because you were seriously going to go do it,
Yeah, you were doing the same thing at 15 years old.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know how to do that.
Right.
I didn't have that in me at that point.
Yeah.
But I was listening to you, and it inspired me to start. At least it had planted the seed in me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because, I think it's cool to hear you say that, because I think the seed was planted into me from extreme poverty with my family, you know, like, dang, you know. And then I'll never forget. I saw one time I first started dating my wife. We were driving. She drove this old beat up car. We saw this white Bentley, right? True story. And this Bentley was driving, you know, and in St. George is a small town, you know. And so we were driving. And I go, babe, follow that Bentley. And she's like, what? Why? And I go, I got to figure out, what does this dude do? He drives a Bentley. Just today, there was a Ferrari in the parking lot. I asked you, who owns a Ferrari? I still do it. I love people's story. I want to know, how do people succeed? So I said, follow the Bentley. She goes, why? Just follow him. So she drives into the parking lot. Guy pulls into a Cafe Real parking lot. It's not there anymore. It was up in like Zion Shops. Yeah. And I get out, I knock on his window, and he like jumps like I was there to rob him or something, you know? So I'm like, roll down your window, you know? So he finally rolls down his window. I'm like, excuse me, can I ask you, what do you do? And he was like kind of hesitant at first. And I'm like, well, you know, you drive this incredible car. I'm just wondering, I'm a young guy. At this time I was probably, 19 years old. What do you do for a living? And he goes, well, I own a tree farm. I swear, I go, what kind of trees? You know, like for real. And he goes, I own a palm tree farm. I go, how did you get started a palm tree farm? He goes, dude, I got out of high school. I saved my money in high school, bought a piece of land, planted some palm trees. 10 years later, started selling them at $10,000 a pop. So this guy's telling me he's driving a Bentley. And I go, so you didn't go to college? He's like, nah, I didn't go to college. Now my entire perspective is starting to change as I get older of what everybody has told me was success versus now I'm actually asking successful people, because at that time in my life I grew up in poverty, didn't know anybody successful. Now I'm bold enough to where I go, I don't want to live this life anymore. I don't want to be broke. I realize now I'm in the real world. I got to pay for everything. So I got to make some money. I want to find out, what are these guys doing? They can't be that much better than me. There's just got to be something they know that I don't. And I think that growing up in poverty helped me a lot. But, you know, you grew up a little bit different than I did. You had a dad who was, you know, a stud, right? He would work hard and deliver a great life. So I think that sometimes I see my kids right now. One of the things I tell my wife all the time, the thing that makes me nervous the most is, how do I keep that in my children? That
is a scary thing, man.
Sickening hunger, right? So that's the hardest thing. But I think we all get it from somewhere, you know?
Yep. I'm curious also about what you attribute your ability to keep pushing hard through all those years. I mean, I know you said it's your passion and you love what you did, but I mean, you started out young and without a lot of exposure and work ethic from doing like hard shit. Like I grew up building houses, so I got some work ethic from doing that. Yeah. But where did that come from?
Yeah, I think my work ethic came from boxing. You know, my trainer was an amazing guy. I mean, he really was.
That's awesome.
And I wish I would have known it, because I didn't appreciate it. It's like a lot of times we grow up and we're like, oh my gosh, what my parents are trying to teach me, you know, I wish I would have. Same thing with a boxing trainer. Now that I'm older, you know, and have some maturity and some, you know, a little more wisdom under my belt, I look back on all the stuff he was teaching me, and I almost wish he would have just told me, because I wanted to be successful so bad. If he would have just told me what he was trying to teach me, I think it would have.
He may not even have known.
And he may not have, but he would do stuff like, man, I would hesitate. Like I would get in the ring, and you know, sometimes these guys would be bigger than me, you know, and I would be scared, right? And instead of letting the fear push me forward and be more aggressive or work harder, I would hesitate when I'd get in the ring. So he used to just get in the ring, and if I hesitated backwards, he'd just punch me in the back of the head. It hurt far worse getting punched in the back of the head than it did being aggressive, moving forward, and letting that guy hit me, right? But you do that for 5, 6, 7 years, and then eventually you go out into the real world, and what do you do when you get scared? You charge forward.
Yep.
So I didn't realize at that time in my life that I loved boxing, but then when I went into sales, someone told me no, and I didn't go, oh my gosh, you know, cry, go home, suck my thumb. I went, I'll show you. You'll see, right? And I just started like writing down my oh yeah list, like, oh yeah, I'll show you. You know, you're going to regret it. You're going to regret, you know, not joining me, doing business with me, telling everybody I wasn't going to be anything. I'm going to make you regret it, you know. So I think those things a lot of times drove me when I wanted to quit. It's like so many times I'd say, I want to quit right now, but I got too many people I got to prove wrong, you know. And so.
Yeah, you went hard for a lot of years. And a lot of that stuff, like you heard Michael Jordan talking about similar concepts.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to manufacture those things in our head, because there's not always the naysayers that are talking to us all the time. But I do the same thing.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I've had a lot of support in my life.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of people around me that love me. And sometimes it can be a benefit.
Yeah.
But it's also, you know, from somebody who comes from a much rougher background.
Yeah.
they have some of that stuff driving them naturally because of their upbringing.
Yeah.
And I have to fabricate some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And it worked for me too.
Yeah.
It took me a lot longer to figure out what my driving force was and how that worked though, because I didn't have a rough upbringing.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's awesome. I mean, it is something that I've changed my family tree, right?
100%.
So it's something that I have to think about that. But if you want to succeed, I don't care how you were brought up, right? If you want to succeed, you're going to find a way. Mm-hmm. You know, one of my best friends in the world is a guy whose dad has been mega successful, right? And he went on to play Division I basketball in college, and great basketball player, and then graduated college, and then ended up going to work with his dad and built a mega successful company on his own without any of his dad's help, with an upbringing. I'm talking, this guy, his dad bought him a house when he graduated high school. When he went to college, his dad bought him a lake house at college, bought him a new Escalade. Then when he got home, he bought him another house, because then he met his wife, and so bought him another house, you know? So when I'm talking everything, when he was 12 years old, the new Camaro came out during Transformers, and they were driving down the road. He saw it and went, "Oh, Dad, look at that car. That was in Transformers." Dad said, "Let's go get it." His dad went and bought it for him. He's 12 years old, you know, just so he could see it in the driveway. Like, that was the upbringing he had, but yet he's still one of the most hardworking, amazing men I'd ever met.
Wow.
And
what do you think was the differentiator within that family dynamic that
expectations
created that?
Expectations. So this man has become, you know, Blake is who I'm talking about. He's an incredible man. In fact, he's such a great guy. He inspired me to want to build a relationship with his dad, because I went, if my kids could turn out half as good as his kids turned out.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and so
because you don't hear very many of those stories.
Right. Yeah. So I build this. You know, I try to. You know, today I consider that man my ultimate mentor. Right. He's the guy that you know I look up to, and that's why I've seen. You know, the Bible says you judge a man by his fruit, and I've seen it. Right. So I know how he's acting when nobody's around, or the things he's doing, or the beliefs and expectations he's pouring in when nobody's around, because you see it in his children. He's got 2 kids, and they're both amazing. Right? And so you look at that and I go, man, how awesome is it? But it's all expectations, that I expect you to be successful. I expect you to work hard. I expect you to be a good person. I expect you to treat people good. You know, there's certain expectations I think every family has, whether they know it or not. Mm-hmm. Right? And so, yeah, just expectations. Everybody rises or falls to expectations. Everybody. Doesn't matter where you're at. You know.
So, that guy has had a big influence on you, but who do you think, or what in your life has had the biggest influence on you?
Self-improvement.
Self-improvement.
Yeah, I mean, so anybody that knows me, that I went to high school with, or any schooling, I was like the worst student on planet Earth. I didn't get bad grades, right? But I mean, you got to show up to be a good student, right?
Yeah.
I never showed up, let alone did good in school. I hated school. I was bored. I wasn't challenged. I saw no benefit in my life, right? And the teachers, you would say, "Hey, tell me why this is going to benefit my life," and their answer would be, you know, something dumb.
Something has to do with college and career and
yeah, right.
all the typical stuff.
Yeah. What was the question I was answering? I forgot. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Who or what has had the biggest
Oh
influence
yeah. So
on
in
you?
school, I never read a book, never did a book report. I hated school.
Machine Gun Kelly.
What about him?
I remember you doing I remember you drawing some art. You doing a report or something on.
Oh yeah,
Machine Gun
the
Kelly.
mobster. Yeah,
Yeah.
If I was gonna do one, it was gonna be on something that cool, right? Like the mob or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Something cool that I mean, I still think. I mean, how awesome is it that this group of people built a city in the middle of the desert? You know, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about, right? But yeah. So I hated school, and then when I got into business, I'll never forget. I read in fact, I was beating myself up, man. I was at a place in my career. I'd only been doing it for about 2 years, and I was starting to make a little bit of money, but I was miserable. Mm-hmm. And I just started like going, is this all there is to it? Like, I'm making more money than I ever thought I could make, but I'm miserable. And I went to Barnes & Noble. And I used to go, like, I still do, actually. I just don't do it at Barnes & Noble anymore. But I'd go, now you can do it on Instagram. I'm not that old, but, you know, this was in 2006, 2007, 2008. Instagram didn't exist.
Yep.
So I would go to Barnes & Noble and get Forbes magazine, Robb Report, like Architectural Digest, DuPont Registry. I would get these magazines, and I'd look at Ferraris and nice cars and huge houses, and billionaire toys in the Robb Report, and it would inspire me, right? And one day I picked up the Forbes magazine, and inside of there it said the average CEO of a Fortune 500 company made something like $500,000 a year. And they said the common denominator between all these CEOs were they all read on average a book a week. And then it gave a list of 52 books, right, of suggested books. And so that day I went and bought all those books. I just went, well, if this is what they do, I'm going to do it. More importantly than just buying the books, I went home and actually did it. In fact, I took a month of work off. So I didn't show up for a month. I just started reading. And
that was when you just started reading.
I started reading.
You hadn't really read before that.
No.
Because it was always a recurring message within the financial services industry, personal development, reading.
Yep. But it was like we were talking about earlier, taking notes. Like, hey, I'll remember it. Fine, you tell me what I need to know, and I'll do it.
Your mind, you got to be ready for the message.
Yeah. And so, but now I realize, like, all right, if that's a common denominator, I'm going to do it. And so I just started becoming a reader. Well, what happened in that process was I realized my level of awareness would allow me to have more consistent emotions, right? And my consistent emotions led to consistent actions. Consistent actions led to consistent growth. And so many people wonder why they start and stop. I mean, there's a million people. We got a million starters in this world, but rarely does someone finish anything, right? And so I just decided that that was who I was going to be. I was going to become this guy where I was going to seek out knowledge and learn and become the best me that I could become. And education didn't have to stop because I stopped high school or college. That's actually when I think the education began, And that's when I started separating myself from the crowd, if you will, financially, is when I really started becoming the best version of myself. I stopped having these insecurities about what people thought about me or who I was trying to prove wrong or all this stuff. I started going way above that and started having a purpose in my life that how good could I become, right? And then if I became better, imagine what I could help other people do, right? I could, where I started, I know where I started. And if I started there and came to here, I could help anyone go from, accomplish their dreams, So that self-improvement is still something I do every single day today. I'm nuts about it, which I know you are too. So.
I am, dude. It took me a little bit longer to get a grasp on it.
Yeah.
But it's made a huge difference.
Yeah.
And now you can, you get in front of a group of people and we're around people all the time in our businesses and watching people trying to figure some of that stuff out. And you can kind of see yourself in these people.
Yeah.
Depending on where they're at.
Yeah.
And how much they talk and how much they need to boast about what they're doing and how much they've accomplished.
Yeah.
And, a lot of it, that awareness and the maturity starts to come with continuing to seek knowledge and being
absolutely.
a lifelong learner and continuing to educate yourself. And school was so easy for me.
Yeah.
I didn't ever show up either.
Right.
The only reason I was able to graduate was because I had a relationship with the attendance lady, and she just kind of erased all the stuff that I needed to do to be able to graduate.
Yep.
But I still graduated with the 3.2.
Yeah.
So.
How funny is this? Both of us, right? Same attendance lady too.
Yep. Same attendance lady.
Shout out to her. We know.
Thank goodness. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah.
Not that damn high school diploma ever did me any good, but I got it.
Yeah.
And now it's the real education started, and just within the past 5 years. I'm 37 years old, and I didn't really start applying myself towards that.
Well, what's cool about that, dude, is that I think so often people think that like you have to be a certain age, or dude, I'm 35, you're 37. We're kids still, right? In the reality of things, and I think so many people feel like, oh man, I'm behind or whatever. And there's so much time. Your life can change like that, right? And it might take 5 years. We were having a conversation at dinner the other night. I was like, it might take you 5 years of grind, and seems like it's never going to end. Seems like, man, you morning, noon, and night. You never let up. And then one day, it's like the floodgates open financially, and it's just like you can't do anything to stop it. And then
it's that hockey stick effect.
Yep. All those lean years pay off in a huge way. And then you realize, like, oh, this is what I was doing all that for. But then afterwards, it becomes like, oh, that was so easy after. You forget all the pain. You forget all the rejection. You forget all of that stuff, right? So I think that's what's inspiring about success, too. It doesn't matter what age you started at,
Yep. There's so many examples of people starting late in life and just finally getting a fire up under them and wanting to accomplish something.
Yeah, or early for that matter. There's examples of everybody. It doesn't matter what you look like, where you come from, what age you are. We can find thousands of examples of people that are mega successful that have the same excuse that you're giving yourself right now. The difference is they did it anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Just do it anyways.
yeah.
Face the fear and do it anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the main reason that I put this podcast together, because I love what I do when I can sit in front of a group of guys
Yeah.
that come from a mediocre background and in a a family that doesn't have all the best examples,
Right.
and their exposure to success and being able to accomplish something with their life and belief level in themselves is pretty limited because of their environment. And just being able to talk into them and show them something that they have inside of themselves that without being exposed, they wouldn't be able to find.
Yeah, you're helping them build a framework, a personal philosophy, and realizing it's not something. The thing that allows people to be successful is God-given, but it was given to all of us. And the difference is whether or not people decide to use it, and a lot of times they suppress it. So it's unfortunate, but success is open to anybody. That's awesome, dude. I think that I always say, what greater life's calling could you have than saying, I wake up every day and I pour into people and help them change their lives, whether it be financially, spiritually, familial, right? Whatever it is. If you can impact somebody's life by helping them make wise decisions because you've been down that path already, what a better calling could you have for life, right?
Dude, it is pretty fulfilling.
Yeah.
And, without being able to go out and touch massive groups of people yet, this is opportunity for me to learn a ton from smart people.
Yeah.
So every single week, I got to bring somebody
That's
in
awesome.
here and learn from experiences and then expose other people to it. And
Right.
there's a shitload of podcasts.
Yeah.
But the one thing about it is you don't relate to every podcast or guest
Right.
or person putting on the podcast.
Well, and it's like reading, right? So this is good. Whether it's podcast reading, I always tell everybody, because I'm every time I talk to somebody, I'm going to give them a book to read.
Yeah. Every
time, like, hey, you should read this book. You should. I love it when people do it to me, right? But people are like, what's your favorite book? What's the best book? And it's not that. It's the habit, because one day you're going to be at the moment, and you might be having an issue or a challenge or even an opportunity, and you don't see it the right way, but listening to this podcast or reading this book or something regarding self-improvement, you hear it from a successful person's perspective, and so you see it from that way and you make that choice, and then it turns out to impact your life in a positive way.
Absolutely.
So it's not about necessarily about just, there's a million podcasts or a million YouTube channels or a million books you can read. Yeah, all the books have already been written. That's absolutely right. It doesn't mean we should stop writing new ones, right? What it means is that if you want to become successful, you start consuming content of people who have what you want and get into their mind as much as you can, because the only way you can have what they have is to think like they think, because if you think like they think, you'll act like they act, right? And so that's it. And so that's why reading to me is so powerful. It's the only way you can really get into somebody's thoughts, right? Because what happens when you're reading, it's in your mind. So now your mind is actually thinking their thoughts. It's the only way we perceive information that way.
Which you also brought up a relevant point too the other day, is you got to be careful what you read too.
Yes.
And who's writing it.
Yeah, it's just like in this modern day of podcasts and social media and all this stuff, all these gurus out here, most of them are broke, They did a really good job at marketing their name, but it doesn't mean it's real. It doesn't mean it's real success. Or how many authors have never actually built a business, but they wrote a book on building a successful business.
They sure are smart and can sound smart in a book.
Yeah.
I've read several of those.
Yeah.
And that changed my perspective when you said that, because there's lots of books that I just force myself to get through.
Yeah.
Because I don't like putting something down. I like finishing.
Yeah.
But when you're not resonating with something and you can tell that this person, they're an academic and they put years and years into college and they're very articulate.
Yeah.
But if that message doesn't align with you,
right,
put the book down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Find a book that does.
You only have finite time in your life. Man, why would you waste more time on whether it's reading or listening or anything on something that doesn't give you any value?
Yeah.
It's like, I think social media is one of the greatest tools in the history of the world, but the majority, 99.99% of people, are what they call consuming content.
Yeah.
they're not creating content because they don't have anything to create. They just consume, and they wonder why their life sucks. It's because they're consuming content from people whose lives suck, right? And then their life turns out exactly the same way.
Are you writing a book?
Yeah, I'm almost done, actually. I have like one chapter. I've had one chapter left for like 6 months. I just got to finish it. The book's done pretty much. Just got to finish the chapter.
Dude.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Excited about it.
When do you do the website and the pre-order so we can all pre-order it?
I don't know, man. Probably. I mean, I'll have it done sometime this year for sure. So I'll let you know.
Awesome.
You can get it out. Yeah, that's always been my thing. I always, I don't know. People have asked me for a long time to write a book, and I agree. I agree that all the books have been written, but I think maybe my perspective might help somebody. So
absolutely.
Take whatever.
I'm the same way, man. I've got my book's coming out in November.
That's awesome. What's it called?
It's called All In.
Heck yeah. I love it.
From Couch to 10 Million.
Heck yeah.
So the first one, I'm sure as soon as I write it, I'm already thinking that, as soon as it comes out, you've already got a whole nother perspective and all kinds of stuff. But for me, it's the same thing I accomplish anything in life. It's like, let's get it done. Let's get this thing out of the way.
Yep.
The next one will be better.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's progression, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's, we just bought a yacht. And we named it Happiness, and it's like, I think everybody in their life is always pursuing happiness, right? And I think happiness just comes from progression. I would say, like, there's only one scientifically proven cure for depression, and that is progression.
Progression.
If you're not moving forward, you're miserable. Right?
Yep.
And I think that's the greatest perspective somebody could have on anything they do is, hey, let's just go. Like, we'll just figure it out, right? We'll move, and if we mess something up, we'll figure it out.
Yep.
Too many people spend all their life planning, trying to get something perfect, and it just never works.
Yeah, I've got, I know a lot of smart people that if they applied themselves and they took action, they could accomplish some big things because they're so smart. And I don't consider myself very smart, but I'm a doer. Yeah. I figure that shit out as I'm doing it.
Yeah, which to me, that is smart. The people that I think our country calls smart, people that are, because I consider myself pretty academically smart, I don't, maybe I wouldn't get good grades on a test or something like that on useless information that I can't use, but I would consider myself pretty smart. But those people that our world calls smart, the problem is they're always trying to find a better way. They're always trying to invent a better way. They're always trying to look at what can they do smarter. Look at people like you and I. They only have a college education, bunch of derelicts. Like, I should make way more money than them. Yeah, but you don't, right? And the reason being is because you're so smart, You're so smart, you're always trying to find a better way, rather than just realizing, hey, the way's already been invented, you just got to move forward. In fact, most people that are mega successful, they didn't invent anything new. Apple didn't invent the iPod. They just made it better than Microsoft did, know? And so I just think a lot of times people think that they have to do something new or be smarter than everybody. Not at all.
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking about something before we started the show about growing your business and the succession from start to finish. And, a lot of our listeners they're in a place in their careers or in their businesses where they're maybe stuck. They've kind of hit the ceiling. And that's kind of where I've gotten to in my business. I'm trying to figure out that next level. And you had some really cool stuff that we were talking about. So I wanted to get your take on that now for the viewers on what are some suggestions, what are some things just kind of thinking outside the box that might get them unstuck from what they're doing right now.
I think the first reason most people get stuck, if you will, is because of habits, which we can come back to habits in a second, because I think habits are so important. But they get stuck because of habits, right? They changed their life. They got to a certain level because they changed their habits, and they got stuck. And so I think that if somebody wants to grow, you're going to have to change. I mean, that's the reality of it, right? But I think a lot of it comes from, I don't know if you're talking about how we were talking about, are you talking about like the three kind of people? Is that what you're kind of alluding to, is when we were talking about the producer and then the builder and then a giant? Is that kind of what you're talking about? Yeah, I mean, when I started in business, I didn't want to build a business that was dependent upon me, right? I see these people that build successful companies, but their brand is them, and that's awesome for them. I congratulate them, I cheer, but I always looked at it like if I died, I wanted to be able, my family, somebody else, whatever. Like we sold our business in October of this last year, and our business exploded after we sold it, right? And some people say, does that make you angry? Would you? No, it tells me we did the right things building a solid foundation, right?
Absolutely. Building leadership, strong leadership.
Yes, I'm proud of those people. I couldn't be more proud because it wasn't about me, right? And so I think the mistake most people make is early on when you're a producer and you start in business, it's you. You're the one closing the sales. You're the one closing the deals. You're the one doing everything. Regardless of what business you're in, it's you. You're a producer, right? And if you stay in that mindset, you'll always build a business from that mindset. But if you go from being a producer to a builder, which a builder now is still producing, but now you've got to produce producers, right? So, if you, I always tell her, if you're a leader but nobody's following you, you're not a leader. You're just going for a walk, right? You're only a leader if other people are following you, right? Like have children, you'll see how much people model you. And so sometimes I have people in my organization, everybody call me coach and say, hey, coach, man, none of my guys will do anything or whatever. I go, your guys are doing exactly what you do, just like your kids do exactly what you do, even though you tell them, don't do what I do what I say, They still do exactly what you do. They look like you, they talk like you, and then you're mad at them for it. And then you yell at them for doing the same crap. But people do that in business too, right, when it comes to leadership. So I think your goal as a leader, it needs to judge your success based on how many people have you developed to do the same thing you did, right? Or are doing. And so then you become a builder once you start producing people that can also produce, right? And then when you go from there, then you want to become, what I would call a giant, somebody who their leadership team is better than they are, I think a lot of times leaders have this self-esteem issue where it's almost like they're threatened by people that are better than them. I want to be around people that are better than me. And if they're working in my company, how much, that's the greatest thing that could happen. But how often do you see someone who hires or recruits somebody better than them, they're intimidated by him, and then they blow them out because they're intimidated.
Push them out,
through bad relationship, bad choices. And they probably do it subconsciously. They don't even realize it. And they think, why can't I keep great talent? Because you're threatened by great talent because you have a giant ego. But if you have a goal of developing leaders that are better than you, then it's almost like your children. If you look at your children and say, I want my children to become more successful than me. I want my children to have a better life than I had. I want my children to have a better upbringing. In fact, I'm going to sacrifice now so that their future will be better. Why wouldn't we do the same thing for these people that we've committed to in their lives, that ultimately their commitment gave us the life that we have, right? So that's, I think, our judge of leadership should be, have we developed leaders that are as good as or better than us? And if not, then we got a lot of work to do. And you're never going to have a long-term game plan where you can have succession, right? Where you can have a business that can go on to the next generation. We have a lot of examples. Look at Steve Jobs died. Tim Cook took over. Boom, exploded the company. Jeff Bezos just retired. Is anybody worried about Jeff Bezos retiring from Amazon? Most people don't even know. Why? Because Jeff Bezos for years is developing leaders, and Jeff Bezos steps down from CEO and Amazon takes off, right? Which tells you, he deserves to be the richest man in the world for a reason. It's
He
not.
put in some work with his people.
Yeah. By the way, he also quit a hedge fund making big money in the 90s to start an online bookstore, as people called it. I was reading an article the other day and said, what is your biggest struggle? People think you're crazy to quit a hedge fund, starting a bookstore. It was my biggest struggle is people would ask me, what's the internet? What is the internet? It's Jeff Bezos, right? So, it's just crazy to think that far back, he was willing to quit a big money-making career, right, at a hedge fund to start an online bookstore as everybody else perceived it when he knew exactly what was going to happen.
He had big-time vision. Big time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's incredible.
So,
What's one of your biggest regrets, or do you have any?
I didn't dream bigger.
Dream bigger.
I didn't dream bigger. Yeah, my dreams were only built on a perspective of what I'd seen in my life, of what my belief level was. Yeah. So, like when I first started in business, I said I'm going to become a millionaire by the time I'm 30. I did it by the time I was 25, right? And what if I'd had a goal to make $100 million by the time I was 30? How much more would I have worked? How much different would my perspective been? All that kind of stuff, right? I don't think I really could have worked harder, but I would have changed my perspective. You change your perspective, change your actions.
You would have approached it from different angles.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're going for $100 million.
Yeah. So I just wish someone would would have been around me and said, dream bigger. Instead, most people around me were thinking, you're crazy. You know, who do you think you are? You barely graduated high school. You think you'd be a millionaire?
Yeah.
You know? So and it's funny because, you know, sometimes, you know, we would go to these seminars and everybody asked for our autograph and stuff like this, you know, and I would just always write, you know, dream bigger. You know, it's always what I tell somebody, just please dream bigger. Please understand that you can accomplish whatever you can dream, and you really can. I mean, that isn't a fad. That isn't someone in some room just created one day. It's true. You're gonna have to work for it, right? But the unfortunate thing is if you shoot for something too small and actually hit it, you know. And so I really think I wish I would have dreamed bigger. Doesn't stop me now, though.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
So tell us about some stuff that you've got going on in your life right now that you're working on.
I'm pumped, man. We just bought a yacht, and it's in Tampa, Florida right now. I'm actually going to get it next week and sail it to Fort Lauderdale.
You got a good enough handle on it? You can go to Fort Lauderdale?
We'll see. Yeah, I think so.
Are you going to bring a captain, or are you going?
Yeah, I'm bringing a guy to help me. Yeah,
awesome.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of money, so I just, you know, risk it.
Send it, buddy.
Yeah, no. Yeah, be wise about it. But yes, I'm gonna have a guy move. And then we're gonna start a circumnavigation with our family. So I'm gonna take my family and sail them all the way around the world over the next 5 or 10 years.
That is incredible.
And, yeah, so that's my plan.
And our plan is to come meet up with you. When did we decide we're coming to meet up with you in the Caribbean?
Yeah, I think this
is it
February,
next
right? Yeah, this
February.
February, yeah.
1 year from now,
Yep.
we'll be meeting you in the Caribbean.
Yeah, it's March right now, huh? Yeah. So yeah, about a year from now.
Wow,
fun. And we'll
that's
just
incredible.
Keep going, man. So yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm 35. My kids are young. My kids are 6, 4, and 2, getting ready to be 7, 5, and 3. And I just want them to see the world. I want them to grow up and realize how big this world is. You know, one of the things is we've chased success for the last 15 years. We've had incredible opportunities to travel around the world and see different cultures and different people and different countries and the way people live. And I think a lot of the issues our country is facing right now is because of entitlement, and they're not entitled. I think the entitlement a lot of times comes because they haven't had the opportunity to travel abroad and see how good they really have it. Mm-hmm. Right, and so one of the things
goes back to perspective too.
Yeah, my kids, I mean, they got such incredible life, and I don't want them to look at. I don't want to not give it to them and say I don't want to spoil my kids. I always tell people, say your kids are spoiled. No, they're not. They're blessed. Right, spoiled is something that went bad. Right, my children are amazing kids. Mm-hmm. They're blessed. Right, but I want to take them around the world so they can see a different perspective and understand how good they really have it. Not just their life, but to be able to be born and live in this country, right, and have the freedoms that we have and the ability and just small stuff, you know, that we take for granted, like having gutters to move the rain when it rains, right? Like people don't think about that stuff until you start traveling. So many people complain about stuff until they need those things and they're not there. But when you have the opportunity to travel around the world, you see how much a rainstorm can impact a country, mm-hmm. right? But in the U.S., we don't even think about it because everybody's prepared, you know.
The other day we were talking about something that was intriguing to me. You were talking about the change of perspective that you've had over the years from pushing hard for all those years and the sacrifices and all the people around you from higher up, from within the company that you were working with, mm-hmm. from the mentors and the coaches that you were working with mm-hmm. that told you that how sacrifice was just a part of what you had to do and what you had to just deal with as you're doing this. Yeah. And you had a really interesting point of view on that.
Yeah, I don't agree. I don't think when you're chasing success is not sacrifice, right? Sacrifice is like something where you're like cutting something off for something better. Well, the issue I have for that is I have children. So if I want to go provide a great life for my children, and so I have to go work and grind, does that mean that I love success more than my children? No. So I'm not sacrificing time with my children. That's not a sacrifice. That's an opportunity. I have an opportunity to provide a great life for my children. Mm-hmm. It's not a sacrifice to me, right? So a sacrifice is a soldier right now in another country, away from his newborn child who he may not see them walk the first time, hear their first words, and get shot before he gets home. That's a sacrifice. He sacrificed his life so we could have freedom, right? So, I mean, for me to go work long hours, it's not a sacrifice, it's an opportunity. Not everybody gets the opportunity to go get wealthy and chase their goals and dreams, right? So if I have the opportunity, I'm taking the opportunity, right? And so, yeah, a lot of times people will tell you, oh, you just have to, you've sacrificed time with your family, sacrifice whatever it is, right? It's just part of it. No, it's not. Anybody that tells you that is full of it. And that means part of their life is screwed up, by the way.
Yep.
I also don't believe in balance. There is no such thing as balance. But you're going to have opportunities to take advantage of in certain times of your life. Like I'm 35 years old. I'm totally free. So I have an opportunity, right, to take my family sailing around the world, raise my children in an environment that I choose. That's an opportunity because I took the opportunity of working 15, 20 hours a day for years and years and years and years. And everybody told me I'm working too hard. Man, just relax, just let up. You're going to burn out, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm 35 getting ready to go sail around the world. And they go, right now? Why? You're crazy. You can do it later, right? It's like,
there's always the naysayers.
Yeah, I mean, it's just perspective, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not a sacrifice, right? Those of you guys that are grinding hard to win for your family, to give them a dream home and your kids in private schools, and you're not sacrificing. You're taking advantage of an opportunity to provide. Right? How is that a sacrifice? Stop giving me the sacrifice bullcrap. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. Mm-hmm. And then just call yourself mediocre, right? It's like I tell everybody, you call me anything, but don't call me average. It's like piss me off more than anything is call me average because I don't want to be average, So
that's one of the scariest things. As I've been growing my business, and I was in the beginning stages, and I'm watching other people that are in kind of similar places in their life, and we're in like some of the same ambassador programs and mentor programs, and how easy it is and how scary you can go back to doing the same shit.
Yep.
And settling for mediocre.
Yep. I mean, it is scary. It goes back to habits, right? One of the things I used to always tell my guys, I say, look, wanting more for doing the same or less is a social and economic disaster. Mm-hmm. Right? Think about it. I mean, most people want more, right? They want more. They want to make more money. They want a promotion. They want ownership. They want a nicer car. They want a nicer house. But they don't want to do more. So wanting more for doing the same or less is a social and economic disaster. It doesn't work, right? We live in an economy, and an economy deals with money, and money is math, and 2 + 2 is 4 every time, right? And so I can't figure out how people don't understand that. And so, yeah, I mean, but again, then it comes back to your habits. If you have certain habits, we were talking about this the other day. You can look at somebody and look at their physical body, and you could pretty much tell them how they eat. Where they eat.
Yep.
Pretty much. You can see how often they move, how many calories a day they eat, just by looking at it.
I find myself doing that.
Right? Yeah, right?
Just unconsciously. Like,
yeah.
I'll bet that guy didn't eat a healthy breakfast today.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what happens when you start changing and you realize, oh my gosh, I do have control over this, right? If I have good habits, right? It's not hard to wake up every day and eat a healthy breakfast. It's like one of the things Jim Rohn always said. He said it's just choices, but an apple a day and a Twinkie a day, still choices, but they both lead to dramatically different results.
Yep.
And so most people in life, they wake up every morning and they choose habits, hitting the snooze button, which was invented for a broke, depressed employee, right? Press 10 more minutes, 10 more minutes, 10 more minutes. If you need an alarm clock, you need to quit your freaking job. Because you're not inspired enough, right? If you have to wake up to an alarm clock in the morning, something's wrong. I've got 3 kids. They're up before the sun comes up. They can't wait for the sun to get up, right? They're excited about life. When does that go away? When social and economic pressures start setting in. You need to go to this college. You need to wear this kind of clothes, drive this kind of car. Your parents told you, oh, but you got to be talented. But you're not talented. But that's their really way of saying, hey, God gives talent, but we just weren't willing to work hard enough. Or, really that's what they should say. But it was really, oh, well, they're talented. God gave them a special gift.
Justification, Jim.
Yeah, and it was really just the habits, that lead to success or failure. I mean, it's very clear. How easy is it to wake up every morning, work out for 30 or 45 minutes, get done and read for 30 or 45 minutes, have a healthy breakfast, which is the same as having an unhealthy breakfast, takes the same amount of time. And people say, well, yeah, but it's more expensive to eat healthier. Well, try cancer. See how expensive that is, right? So tell me which one's more expensive, right? So these justifications. It's easy to eat a healthy breakfast, and then it's easy to go grind all day through the day. When you're grinding and you're getting results and you're making money, you run on adrenaline. And so people that are bored, depressed, frustrated at their job look at you and go, how does he do it? And you're smiling, you got all the energy in the world, and because you have adrenaline, you can't wait. You don't want the day to end. In fact, you wish there were more hours in today. And most people are waiting for Friday, and you're pissed off Friday happens, right? A holiday comes around, and a holiday is an inconvenience.
Slows the momentum.
Yes. An employee can't wait for holidays. They want a 3 or 4 day weekend.
Yep.
A business owner or someone who's pursuing their passion and their purpose, they're not looking forward to the weekends. A weekend is an inconvenience. You know, they want to grind. And so imagine, how do you compete with a person like that? Well, the only way you get to that place is by having habits that lead you to a place where you become good at something. And when you become good at something, you start getting better results than most. And when you start getting better results than most, you start equating that into the effort you put in, which you realize now I can put in more effort and adjust my skills just like you would adjust a carburetor on a motorcycle, right? And you adjust your skills, and then you become even better, and then more experience, more wisdom, plus the skills. Now you separate yourself, and then people just look at you and go, I can never be that good. Well, it always reminds me of that Arnold Schwarzenegger quote when some lady walked up to him and says, ooh, that looks disgusting. I would never want to look like that. And he goes, don't worry, you never will. Right? And it was just like most people aren't willing to put in the effort or not put in.
Yep.
Right? And so if you put in that effort because you have good habits, over time your habits become so predictable and run your life autonomously, right? Where you just do it automatically, that it gets so easy to become successful. And this is why successful people make it look easy, but broke people make broke look easy too. I mean, just give someone broke a lottery, right? Give them $10 or $20 million. 5 years from now, statistics tell us they'll be broke again. Why? Not because they're bad people or they're dumb or whatever, because they're habits.
Yep.
And that's all it is. You change your habits, you change your life, you know.
So what would you say, there's a very small percentage of people that can ever take a conversation like this and are at a point in their life where they can act on it.
Yeah.
But what would you say is something that you could tell our listeners that they could start doing today, they could change the entire trajectory of their life?
Easy. Number one is write down some goals. If you don't write, and I mean write, I'm not talking on your phone with a computer. I'm talking with a pen and a paper. You sit down every morning and every night and you write your goals out, what you want your life to look like. And the way I think you should do it is start with your obituary. If you're dead today and in a box, what do you want your spouse reading what you accomplished in your life? What would be your dream? I still today, I tell my wife, I go, listen, I'm writing my life's book right now. And when I die, based on the decisions I make between now and that day determines what section it goes into. I don't want it in the drama section. I want it in the inspiration or adventure section, right? I want my life to be an adventure and inspiring. I don't want it to be woke up, went to work for 40 years and died. Yeah, he was a good dude. You know, I want to make an impact. I only get one chance, you know?
Absolutely.
And so I think number one is set some goals. You start at that obituary, if you will, you know, in your dream life. If you could have accomplished everything you wanted to, what does it look like? And then you start reverse engineering it. And then you take it to a 10-year plan, a 5-year plan, a 1-year plan. You break it down, and then in the quarter, and then in the month, and then in the week, and then in the day. And then it's very easy. You say, okay, I need to do this today. It's like the whole saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So you take today, and if you do today enough times, right, you get ready for a fitness competition.
Yep.
Anybody who starts a fitness competition looks at somebody who is, I can never look like that, including the people who start it. But then every day they just go, and then you see the change, and you go, you could change like that in 90 days? How? Oh, it was pretty simple. I just did the same thing every day for 90 straight days. It totally changed the way you look, right?
100%.
Same thing with your life. So I think the first thing is writing your goals. It's like every morning I still to this day I do it. Every morning, first thing I do is I wake up, I write my goals down while my subconscious mind, you know, when you wake up, you're still kind of groggy.
Yeah.
Your subconscious mind, it can still be programmed at that level, right? So that's the first thing you want to do, start writing down your goals, right? Write down your goals before you do anything. And so I always have written down 5 business goals, 5 family goals, 5 spiritual goals, right? And
these things seem so simple.
yeah,
Is it really that simple?
it is. Come on, man. Look at how many people are successful in this world. Like anybody who's doubting whether or not you can make millions of dollars, get on Zillow right now and go to any city in America and look how many $1 million homes are for sale. Go to Yacht World and look at how many $100 million yachts there are. Get on cars.com and look how many cars that are 300 grand and above. Tens of thousands of them. Who is buying all of these cars and yachts and houses and trips and private planes and all this stuff? There are tens. There's so much freaking money in this world. And you cannot possibly tell me that all those people are that much smarter than you.
They were just dreaming bigger.
Yeah, they had good habits. And they did what they said they were going to do. Right? They fulfilled. They said, I'm going to do this thing. And then they did it, right? So, yeah, I think, writing goals down if you do every morning and every night. And then, on top of that, reading for 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes at night. You've got to read. Some people say, I don't like to read. Well, I don't like being broke either. So, I mean, if you want to become successful, you just got to make a decision to do it,
Yep.
And leaders are readers.
You got to do what successful people do.
Yeah, and successful people write books, which means they read books. And that's why they write books, because they know that's where they got good information from. So why would you not read books from mega successful people? So yeah, I think those two things will have phenomenal impact. You could have. I didn't have any examples of great marriages growing up. None. My mom was married multiple times. My dad was married multiple times. My dad died from drinking too much. He literally drank himself to death. He never had a good relationship in his life. Nobody in my family's ever had a successful marriage. I've never seen it. Right? But my wife and I have a phenomenal marriage. You know why? Because we started reading books, and I didn't just read books about success. I wanted to be a good parent and a good husband, so I started reading books, and then I find mentors of people that go, they have incredible marriages. Then I reach out to them, hey, what should I do here? What should I do there? What should I do here? And I learn, right? And they'll tell me, hey, read this book or read that book, and then imagine how much of an impact 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes at night, because you read that book and you can apply that information into your life. But now you have it forever, too. It's not like you forget it. Something that has an impact in your life, you don't forget it. You remember that information because now it's who you are, because now you took those actions and it impacted your life. You don't forget those things.
The actions. So one of the big lessons here is the goals are important. Write your goals down morning and evening. And I need to get better at writing them physically down. I have the same goals pretty much for long periods of time. And I'll write them down, but then I review them every morning and every night.
Watch what'll happen if you start adding task-based goals, like break them down a little bit smaller to give you action steps you got to take on a daily basis. Watch what'll happen to your life in just 90 days, dude, if you did it every morning and every night for 90 days.
All right.
And when you review
I'm going to take that challenge.
When you write them on 3x5 cards, keep them in your pocket, and then when you review them, when you're sitting outside of an appointment, somebody showed up 5 minutes late, right? Like, I'm always 15 minutes early, right? Always. So I don't show up to any, like, if I'm not 15 minutes early, I'm late, So when I'm 15 minutes early, most people don't think like that, so I know I've got 15 minutes. I review my goals, my affirmations, where am I at, where do I want to be.
And every day you've got a new 3x5 card.
Every day, because every morning I rewrite them. Every morning I rewrite those cards. I have cards still today. I keep them so I can go back and review how much my goals have grown. And I'm embarrassed by my old goals. Remember how I said dream bigger? Yeah. I read those and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was thinking so small. Yeah. Like I'm almost embarrassed, So yeah, it's crazy. You watch. I'm telling you, dude. I'll bet you have. If you really did that for 90 days, just like I know you're doing right now in the gym for your fitness competition. I know how much effort that takes. If you did that for 90 days, you'll see more growth in your life, both personally, financially, and in your business than any other 90-day period ever. Just like you will in this fitness competition, doing what you got to do for 90 days.
Yep. Wow.
And then when it comes to action, I think saying that, most people, in fact, almost all people underestimate the amount of action it's actually going to take them to succeed. You've all underestimated it. This is why you haven't started. Because you say you want that goal, right? But you've underestimated how much effort it's really going to take. Because the competition ain't going to roll over and just let you put them out of business or let you take their business.
Right.
Right? It's not going to happen. You're going to have to be willing to. You have to fight. for two things. Number one is you got to fight to get the client or consumer. Then you got to fight to keep them from your competition. And most people don't think that way. So it's gonna take a lot more effort than you think. And if you're prepared for it, like I would say, listen, tell me it's going to be hard, right? So I expect it. I'm okay. But don't you dare tell me it's going to be easy, and then I find out it turns out to be hard as hell. Mm-hmm. I'm okay as long as you tell me it's going to be hard. I'm prepared for it. But don't tell me it's one thing and have it turn out to be something else, right? So I want you all to know as you're on your journey to success, I mean, it's going to be hard. It'll be the hardest thing you ever did, right? Just like marriage. I mean, most people think marriage is easy. I have a phenomenal marriage. My wife is incredible. And when I say marriage is hard, I don't mean, it's hard because you fight and all this kind of stuff, right? I mean, it's hard because intentionally every day you should have pressure on yourself to make this better and focused on making it better just like you would your business, right? It takes actions. It takes effort. It takes pressure on yourself, right, to have a great marriage or to be a great parent, right? It takes a lot of effort to be great at those things. And then people somehow turn around and think that it's going to be less effort to become successful in business. No. Are you going to have to think about it, be obsessed with it morning, noon, and night? Yeah. You meet those people who say, man, I just want to be able to turn it off at the end of the day. Well, you have been sentenced to a lifetime of mediocrity because of your choice, But the day you say, you know what, I can't wait to wake up every morning, be inspired, and go to work. I don't need an alarm clock. The sun wakes up. I can't wait to hit the ground running because I got an opportunity to change my family forever. I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it happen. I don't care if I got to work morning, noon, and night. And then what happens when you start having goals, you start having vision, you start having all this kind of stuff, you sit down with your spouse, and your spouse knows it. And at first, it was like my spouse. Like at the beginning, I was with Kelsey every day before I started the business. Mm-hmm. And we went from being together every day to where I would show up at 11 o'clock at night, because we were married. Yeah, I would show up at 11 o'clock at night, say hi for 10 or 20 or 30 minutes, and go home. And it went from all of a sudden she supported talking me into doing it to, no, I don't want you doing this anymore. And we actually,
too much.
Yeah, we actually split up.
Wow.
Because I went, no. Like, you don't understand. I'm going to become successful. This is my opportunity. Mm-hmm. I'm not that kind of guy where I start something and then, it got too tough. No, that's not me. I don't care how hard it is. I got my opportunity. I'm going to take it. So I told her, I said, listen, and I said, we live in Utah. Everybody goes on a mission for 2 years. So I want you to just treat it like I'm going on a mission for 2 years. I'll be back in a couple of years. I'll be successful, And, thank goodness my mentor goes, bro, you can't do that, So his wife actually sent my wife flowers. We were just dating at the time. Sent her flowers from me, but I didn't know it. So then she called
This is Lexi?
Me. Yeah, Lexi Neal. Yes, sent flowers to Kelsey from me, but I didn't know because they just knew I was being an idiot. But I was working hard, right? My perspective was totally wrong. I was just this young, immature kid. They were trying to help me, thank goodness. But yeah, so they sent Kelsey flowers from me, and Kelsey called me. So then I just need you. Like, I just need your help. Like, I just need you to support me. I just need you to cheer me on when I get home. I'm putting up with rejection. People tell me no, I'm stupid, I'm crazy, all this stuff. I just need you at home to say, you got this, you can do it, go another day, make another call, right? And that's all I needed. I just needed someone in my corner. So when then that happened, then all of a sudden she started going, did you close tonight? Mm-hmm. And if I didn't close, she'd go, don't worry, you got one tomorrow. And if I did, she goes, yeah, right? And then she started becoming involved. And then she started knowing all of our spouses in our business. And then she started doing like potlucks and parties and all this kind of stuff. And then it became more hers than it was mine, right? Because she was the one building the relationships and she was the glue of the whole thing. And so it only happened because we made a decision to go all in and be focused 24 hours a day. I mean, morning, noon, and night. There was no break, So I think sometimes people go, oh, you go to dinner with your spouse. Can't you just put your phone down for a minute? Well, yeah, I could. But is that what we want to do right now? Absolutely, I could do that. Mm-hmm. But is that really in our goals? Because our actions need to align with our goals. If your actions don't align with your goals, you'll be depressed and frustrated. But if your actions line up with your goals, you're going to be excited and inspired. So I would always just ask myself that, like, okay, yeah, we could do whatever we want to do right now, but does that line up with my goals? Like, sometimes we would have vacations planned, right? Like, there's been times we've paid $5,000 for a vacation somewhere, and we didn't take it because we had too much momentum. And in our perspective, it would cost us way more to leave long term than it was going to cost us to lose a $5,000 trip. Most people go, well, I already had the trip planned, so I can't, I'm just going to go, and hopefully everything. No, it'll be all right. I'll lose a trip. I'm going to work hard, grind, and I know that I'm going to be blessed for putting the work, focused, and good things will happen because I was willing to do what most people aren't willing to do. I was just, another thing, like I would look at it like the competition never takes a day off, right? So here's how I would look at it. take a calendar, 12 months. And if I know my competition's taking Thanksgiving Day off, I'm working Thanksgiving Day. Because that's a way I can find an edge on you, right? If I know you close your doors at 6 o'clock, I'm staying till 10 o'clock because I can find another edge, right? So I would always be looking at how can I find the edge on my competition? What can I do to put me a little bit further ahead? Because if your people believe they have an edge, they do. But it's your job as a leader to give it to them. And you give that edge to them by creating culture, products, services, training, all that kind of stuff that maybe somebody else, they can't get anywhere else except for you, right?
It's incredible, man. This has been pretty special.
Awesome. I'm excited, dude. It's so good to be here with you, man. I'm so proud of you, dude. Seriously.
Wow. I'm pretty proud of you, dude.
Thank you.
I mean, from where we were when we were 15, 16 years old.
Yep.
That first Primerica meeting that I went with you, we went back to your house and we smoked a blunt.
Yep.
And I didn't take it serious.
Right.
I didn't know if you were going to take it serious.
Right. I didn't know at that time either.
we were just a couple of potheads, and you were teaching me kind of how to dream big.
Yeah.
And you ran with it.
Yeah.
And it's been fun to watch. And I remember the first time Jared called me and told me that you'd taken that Primerica thing and you got to look him up. He's on YouTube, and we hadn't talked in years, and you'd just been focused and grinding and probably hadn't talked to many other people.
Yeah, probably nobody outside of my business, to be honest with you, yeah.
And I remember that first time I pulled up a video of you on YouTube, and you're speaking in front of this huge conference.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, my God, it doesn't even seem like the same person.
Yeah.
All this wisdom is coming out of you and confidence.
Yeah.
The things that you've accomplished are incredible. Well, and I think you're welcome.
I'm humbled. I really am. Blessed.
It's been an honor to have you here. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. And
anytime, man.
And I want to leave a message with everybody today that everybody has it in them to do something great. And I think that the common theme here is the habits that you develop determine the level of success that you can attain.
Absolutely.
So start today with some of the stuff that Jeff had suggested, with writing your goals down. Do it morning, do it in the evening. Read. Become a reader.
Yep.
So there was a saying that I heard recently that was, I'm going to start reading books, or I'm going to become a reader. I like that much better.
Yeah.
I'm going to become a reader. And I feel like I have become a reader. And it's in the beginning for me, it was difficult because I've ADD and my brain's all over the place.
Yeah.
And most people are going to start out like that. And you probably will start out like that too. But
yeah, I think, I mean, you know me, dude, I hated to read.
Yeah.
Hated.
I mean, so did I.
I never read a book in my life until business. But rather than being a reader, I would encourage someone to fall in love with learning. Like, love to learn. Love to learn about people. Love to learn about their stories. Love to learn about how other people succeeded. Love to learn about, I mean, if you just love to learn, then you have value. And if you have value, you become valuable. And if you're valuable, then you can make a lot of money. But why do you expect to make a lot of money if you're not valuable? Right? If you don't bring value to other people, you can expect for them to give you value in the form of currency.
Yep.
So yeah, I just think loving to learn. I tell my wife that all the time. My kids are homeschooled. And my son is just like me, hates school, right? But he's smart, right? So he'd be like running around while he's supposed to be doing math or cursive or something like that.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and I tell her, I go, babe, I don't care if he's running around during math because he gets it, right? He knows it, right? So he can do whatever he wants as long as he learns the information. What I care the most about is that he loves to learn. If he loves to learn, we got all the resources. We got Google. We got all the resources in the world. We could find the information we need to learn whatever it is we want to learn if we have the courage and the work ethic to go pursue those things. Right?
Do you guys do homeschooling?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that this country does to our young kids in the traditional public schooling system is they wear them down.
Well, they teach them to be modern-day slaves. They teach them to start with a bell, end with a bell, nights, weekends, holidays off. Here's how much we're going to pay you. Don't ask questions or else. right? It was from the industrial society, right? So the reason they started with a bell, ended with a bell, just like we went to school. We started with a bell and ended with a bell, right?
Yep.
Nights, weekends, and holiday. Why? Because that's how the factories run. So the reason they need it that long is because it takes about 12 years for you to become obedient. Otherwise, they can't create the obedience in you, right? So you need to be smart enough to run the factory. You have to have enough obedience that we tell you what to do and you do it. So it takes about that much time for that to happen. Then we go into higher education, we can go on a whole nother thing.
They just keep right on down the same path.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
But it beats the joy of learning out of people.
It does. It puts you in a box. And yeah, I mean, you if you're ever stuck in a box, I mean, it's just, you got to get out of it. People always ask, someone the other day said, so what makes you happy? Like in business, what makes you the happiest in the world? You want to know what makes me so happy in business? Is that I can meet somebody and who's making 30, 40, 50 grand a year, and I can have them quitting their job making 30, 40, 50 grand a month in 12, 24 months from now. Because I didn't just get them to quit their job and create a better life for their family. I also created more jobs for our country. So I had this multiple kind of impact on our country and on people's lives by simply teaching somebody some skills that they can get out of their job. Right?
And they can take with them for the rest of their lives.
Forever.
And now it's duplicatable also. You're producing leaders who are now going to be able to produce leaders.
Yes, yeah. So I think, I just think what an incredible life, what an incredible country we get to live in, where we really have the option to do whatever the heck we want to do with our lives. And if there's going to be something you choose to do, I would suggest that it revolves around leadership, because there'll be nothing that's more fulfilling in your life than becoming a leader who develops other leaders and then watching them thrive,
100%.
It's like Jesus said, right? Come with me, I will teach you how to be a fisher of men,
Absolutely.
So
this has been phenomenal, dude. I think
thank you, brother. Appreciate
I never really talk about it,
Yeah.
but I'm kind of an emotional guy.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here and I've always had this in me. It's like,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it's just because I'm so fucking hungry. I just want to do something so bad when we talk about inspiring stuff and helping people.
Yep.
I get choked up and I get
Yep.
I get the little quiver lip going.
Yep.
I love this kind of
ball
stuff,
in the back
man.
of your throat just hurts. Yep.
Yep.
That's how you know you're in the right spot. I think that's God's way of telling you, hey, you're in the right spot. Keep going, man.
Yep.
So
Keep pushing.
Yep.
And I got this little poster behind us that says, in order to become the 1%, you must do what the other 99% won't.
Exactly.
And that's pretty accurate. There's most of the people that we know in our lives will never get around to doing much. And they'll stay average and ordinary just because they aren't willing to do what those 1% are willing to do.
Exactly.
So get out there and do something. Write your goals. Read your books. Go out there and put those goals into action today. Today is the day to get started. And go on and like and subscribe on YouTube. And follow us on Facebook and Instagram and come back for more. This is what we love doing, is bringing as much value as possible and maybe being that one conversation that you listen to that was the catalyst for you taking it to the next level.
Heck yeah.
So episode number 5 in the books. This has been my favorite so far.
It's awesome.
I'm going to go back and listen to this thing.
I look forward to it.
This is going to be a piece of study material for me, man. This is incredible.
Awesome.
You were incredible. Thank you.
Appreciate you. All right, man.
Checking out. Till next time. Thanks, you guys.